Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Clear?
Michael. Yes, please
All
go
right,
ahead
great.
and do presenter view, please.
Okay.
Looks great.
Okay. Well, I'll get started then. I'd like to welcome all the admitted students and introduce basically today the EECS Master of Engineering program. And so without further ado, this is the team that runs the program. Professor Archak is the vice chair of the master's degree programs here at the EECS department. I'm in the middle. My name's Michael Sun. I am the graduate advisor on our graduate advising team that you'll probably be interacting with most. We have my supervisor, Shirley Solano, and she is the director of graduate matters. And then below, you see our partner organization, the Fung Institute, where all the support staff, including Claire, who's with us today, will assist you with any of the related, the Fung related leadership coursework or any of their messaging. And so, without further ado, I'll go into the MEng program here at EECS. The MEng EECS program is structured out of 3 tiers of curricular activities, as you can see. The first one is what we call the core leadership curriculum. And so that's run by the Fung Institute. And it's really meant to give students experience on how to form teams and manage teams within kind of a technology enterprise and venture. And, try to structure that curriculum around recognizing an idea to be sold in a technological sense, and then forming the team, understanding dynamics on how to communicate and organize, and that's going to be done through a sequence of 7 units over the course of the year, and a series of coursework that they offer that that covers it, together with a communications component of the capstone project. In the second section, leading from that first part, is your capstone project, and that will be about 5 units, and it really analyzes and addresses an industry challenge that we integrate into our core curriculum. So these projects are cutting edge R&D ideas that a team recognizes and works on, and has to both kind of make a market analysis and study in conjunction with the core leadership curriculum that I mentioned, but also a technical contribution in collaboration with the capstone lead faculty. The third and last component is the course and the technical course electives. And so um, students will amass through these courses that are chosen, among their main concentration area, and also we allow one technical elective to be taken out of their admitted area. Basically, technical expertise, the tools and knowledge that will help assist them with their, success in the capstone project and research. And so we have a breakdown again of the technical coursework that I mentioned. So 4 courses over the course of 2 semesters. 3 are from your listed area of your admitted area of concentration. These are graduate level courses, so 200 level and above, within the EECS department. So they may be coded as either EE or CS, or sometimes you might see EECS as well. We expect a overall GPA of 3.0 at least, and then with regards to the technical electives, the EECS department has a 3.5 GPA overall cumulative requirement. So we have 2 flavors of capstone projects, and I think this is something that really distinguishes the Berkeley EECS program and overall the Berkeley MEng program from other similar programs in the nation. This is a hands-on experience with supervision of a faculty member of EECS, and we offer it in 2 flavors. So one is the capstone design experience, where in the fall term, we couple an intro class with a relatively slow ramp up in the introduction into a capstone project. So basically more emphasis is placed on the ramp up content that's provided in this introductory class. And then in the spring term, the capstone project activity really ramps up quickly. So that's where the main effort is. This type of capstone experience is meant for projects that require a reasonably big set of tools and techniques that are specific to this capstone, where the intro class is a more convenient way to do that. We also have standard capstone project offerings where you don't require as much setup time, but you start in the fall with 2 units of the capstone course. And then in the spring, it's ramped up to 3 units to continue the project and really finish that off. Um, and so one of the more common questions is, you know, based on the fact that this is a lockstep 2 semester program, is there any chance for an extension? We do have the option of an extension. How we structure it is basically on the fact that this is something that the individual wishes to um, flesh out more of, like a research idea, or um, kind of build upon the capstone research that they had over the course of the year, with the option of taking additional technical and elective coursework. And so um, we have an application that is open in late fall, and students who are in our EECS program, would apply for the extension. We require an explicit capstone faculty endorsement, and so your current capstone advisor would have to be willing to supervise you, and then it's also contingent on academic performance in the fall semester. So there are, costs associated with it. It is an extra semester, but we've seen a lot of benefit from that for students who do decide to do the extra third semester. So in addition to that, the cost can be somewhat mitigated through, I believe, fellowships, as well as, you have the opportunity to look for a summer internship and in between that period. Oh, Claire just mentioned that my video was off, so I apologize for that. That is my dog, not me. So, hi. Apologize for that. And so I'll shed a little bit of light on how the EECS and MEng timeline of how we run project assignments, course, um, basically course enrollments and everything, a little bit slightly different than the rest of the departments in MEng. And so being a new admit, after the SIR period in April, we will be sending out welcoming messages, as well as information about our capstone projects for next year. So there is a repository right now that we're compiling, basically a large group of new projects. And right now, I think the number is up to 37 that are spread across all the different concentrations. Some of them, and a lot of them, are interdisciplinary. So you'll have a good mix of, say, DSS students with, say, some students who are in VCCG. And so there is overlap within a lot of these projects for multiple teams of students and students with interdisciplinary backgrounds and focus. I'll be sending that a link out to that repository, and there'll also be our faculty who are proposing and supervising those projects will also have basically pitches, so short videos explaining in more detail these proposals for next year. And so keep an eye out for that. We send out a capstone project preferences survey in early summer, and so that's going to happen sometime in June. And so basically we'll gauge the admits or the new students for their preferences, and bring that back to then the faculty to kind of vet and review and staff their teams. And so this process takes about a month. And, that's kind of our own private marketplace that is separate from what you'll kind of be seeing sort of Fung messaging about their capstone marketplace. But that is for the other departments. EECS has and runs their own. And so ours is separate. And we get questions like, can I change my project? Normally, so we are able to get everyone into their top preferences. So the survey will gauge, again, your top preferences, and then we'll, basically cross-reference that with faculty vetting and who they wish to staff. But more or less, everyone is very happy with their results. And so if for whatever reason you do get assigned to a project that you want to switch or change, the onus is on you to let us know early on if that is an issue, and we'll work with you on that. So at this time, I think pretty much I am going to open the floor up to three of our actually alumni students who graduated a couple of years ago. And so they've been working in industry for a while now. And I will also take a look at the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, feel free to post in there and I'll try to answer those. And I think, our panelists can talk a little bit about, I have a couple questions for you guys, but, you can just introduce yourselves and let us know your areas, what project you worked on, and then I'll ask a question and then you guys can kind of respond as you need to. So let me stop this share now, and then you can probably go back into the, so now, Claire, we're in the video, just kind of like a panelist setting now. Am I right? Okay,
That's
perfect.
correct, Michael. And I see you and Professor Arkak and now Like.
Yeah, so we have Likai, we have Fan, and we have Russell. You go by Russell, right? Russ? Russ.
Call me Z.
Z? Okay, we'll call you
Yeah,
Z.
yeah.
All right. Okay, so yeah. Oh wow, nice background, Fan. Okay, so yeah, if you guys could then, whoever wants to just take the first shot at it, talk about your area. First, the capstone project that you worked on, and then I have a couple questions that you can answer. The first one being, how did this program help shape your career trajectory, and how did working on your specific capstone project help prepare you for the industry? And the second question that you could respond to is, what would be something that you wish you knew before you're going into the program? For our new admits to know, and if I were a new admit today, how would I prepare for the program? So yeah, anyone can take the floor. Thank you guys also for taking the time out of your schedules to show up today and talk to us.
Yeah, I think, I can go ahead. So, can you guys hear me? Or
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so my name is Li Kai, and then I graduate May 2019. So yeah, at the same time with Z and Fan. So I was in the robotic embedded software track, and my capstone project is Berkeley Deep Drive. So it's like really working with the professor. What's the professor's name? Yeah,
We'll strike that from the recording, right?
Yeah, but it's like under like the Berkeley Bear Lab, and also I'm working with very closely with the PhD student, postdoc, scholars. So what we're building is basically remote control. We're trying to implement a stereotype for a remote control system for autonomous driving cars. So like for manual control. So it's not like a heavy on machine learning side. It's more building the pipeline and stuff. So yeah, I'm right now working in Cisco Meraki. So it's a small startup that acquired by Cisco and based in San Francisco. And I work on wireless access point, so in enterprise level networking gear. So kind of work as a feature engineer, full stack. So ranging from like firmware side all the way to web application. So actually, the capstone help us a little bit for this job because we're building like a remote control system. We want to build it like based on the website. So basically, you can pull out a browser and then control the car, or like a view, like having a dashboard from there. And what we're doing in Meraki, we're building a cloud-based solution. So basically, what we're building is a dashboard connecting like the actual hardware and the customer. So yeah, the capstone really gave me like the very first exposure to web application. So I think it's actually really good, like leading through my career. And also other takeaway from the course, I think it helped. Since I was in robotics and embedded software, and then I took like computer vision and then like the deep reinforcement learning class. So I think it actually helped me to clear my mind that I realized machine learning or like deep learning is not the direction I want to go. So actually, I think it's really helpful. Like even though like I'm not doing those right now, but I think it's like it helped me to find out what I actually want to do. And I think some suggestion for if I'm a new admin student, the first thing is like coming prepared because because I did my undergrad at UCLA, so and then I graduated a semester earlier, so I have a really long like vacation before I come into Berkeley, and then like everything when I come in as like first thing is a boot camp and also the capstone technical courses. I was like a little bit rusty at first, and then it's like super overwhelming when I first joined. So I just like it would be nice if you guys can come in prepared, and then because there's a lot of stuff going on when you first step on campus.
Great, thank you. So you think I just was listening. So you're in kind of a startup right now. Do you think being in a capstone group kind of helped prepare you for the dynamics and the organization of where you're currently at?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say us like a startup. We have like I think we were a startup and then we acquired by Cisco, but we're like relatively small compared to. We have like 200 to 300 engineers, but I think definitely those leadership courses help me to I can have more insight on the product side and then like product management. Also, some of the bootcamp courses is actually really helpful, like the industrial analysis. That highly recommend that course. So help you like not only understanding the stock market for sure, and also like you can analyze the whole industry, know what's going on in the Silicon Valley, which is pretty important if you work in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. All right, who wants to go next? Neo, do you want to go next? Fan?
Yeah.
You didn't get the Matrix reference, even though that's your background? Come on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fan, and I also graduated in 2019, and my concentration is visual computing and computer graphics. And the capstone project I'm with is AR/VR capstone experience. And currently, like I'm a software engineer at Oracle and mainly works for the integration of AI platforms to enterprise systems. And what my capstone previously in Berkeley do is just like to implementation, like to explore features for human-computer interaction for people to better like interface with robots, with computers, with VR technologies. And because the Berkeley Master of Engineering program is more like associated with industrials, with professionals. And I think what's the biggest takeaway from my experience is, is like how you can think of your project as an industrial oriented program. So because in modern like industrial, we not only talk about like how you coding those things or how you implement these things. It's more about like communications and also leadership roles during the project. Like you need to make a lot of presentations, you need to handle a lot of issues with your stakeholders or with your managers. So it's just like directly same as what we do in capstone projects. Like we may have weekly meeting with our supervisors, like for every project for every progress, we may need to talk with their stakeholders or talk with your supervisors about like how these things would influence the final results. So I think that's the biggest advantage of the capstone program. And so one example of my experience is like we are designing some VR interfaces for the robotics, especially for the drones. So from a new admitted student perspective, all we want to do is just like to code in some new features or just to try to finish some tasks. But with the capstone project associated with those like leadership courses and communication courses, we may have a better like sense of like how this kind of features would influence the users if this product is really going to the market or going to the industrial. And also like those kind of leadership course as well as a bootcamp course can make you feel like how the current society works. Like you know how to present your projects and how to share your ideas with different people. Like cause in the modern industrial, not you deal with not only those tech guys, you deal with a lot of the customers, the product managers, or a lot of people that don't have the exactly same background with you. So it's a pretty important case with like you need to express your ideas, your products, your experience to someone who don't know much, but you need to express your ideas best. So I think that's what makes the Berkeley capstone projects pretty important, especially for you guys if you want to step into the industrial. And for the ideas for new admitted students, like the first thing came up to me is just like to learn something about communications or learn something about presentations. Because I believe like all of the admitted students, they should have a pretty solid foundation or background on the engineering, on the computer science, on the electrical engineering. But a lot of especially like the newly graduate from the undergraduate, they may don't have the sense of like how we can present ourselves, how we can share our ideas. So I think that's the pretty important thing if you want to get yourself used to the Berkeley capstone project or into those leadership courses. Yeah, that's all.
That's great. That's great advice. Thank you. All right, so you're up.
Nice pronunciation. Yeah, so I graduated in May 2019 as well, and my track was data science and systems. The capstone project I worked on was with Professor Kurt Quitzer to develop small-scale neural networks that we can put some detection and generation networks from GPUs to your cell phones. And basically what we try and do was have a working app that can use the camera to capture the motion of a novel target, and then we transfer that motion to someone else. So kind of like a live action deepfake. So that's my capstone. And I feel like what I learned most from my capstone was because Professor Quasar came from an industrial background, and also the PhD students we worked with were starting their own startups as well. So we really get an idea of how to think of the machine learning technologies we can use more as a product, not just some models you can see on research papers, and also how to think from the customer's end. So I think that really helped a lot. And in general, just fabulous experiences working with some of the best PhD students, some of the best professors from the world, and that definitely helps. And as for advice for new admits, I guess I agree with Li Kai. you can come here prepared. So it's just a 1-year program, and if you don't plan on taking on another semester, that means you have to do 4 technical courses, 1 capstone project, and finding a job all in 1 year. So that can be tough. If you can come to the program prepared, let's say you prepare beforehand, your resume, some of those coding questions you will have during job interviews. I mean, that would be great. So yeah, that's all I have.
Perfect.
Michael, can we pause for just a second? There's a question for Likai.
Yeah,
audience.
I was going to start going down the list of the open questions now and see if anyone wants to respond to them. And so I think you guys can see them, right? The panelists could see the questions. So the first one is, are we allowed to take extra technical electives? My recommendation for fall would be to stick with 2. Even our incoming PhD students normally only take 2 technical courses max. The reason for this is that Berkeley graduate coursework, and in particular EECS graduate coursework rigor, is it's quite rigorous, right? It's and so being as such that you are here and for a limited amount of time, we want you to do well, and we want you to not just focus on coursework, but all the other things that were mentioned before. The organizational leadership coursework, getting acclimated to the dynamics of working in a capstone research group, and all the above. And so for fall, at least, I would highly recommend just taking 2. In the spring, the capstone research work also ramps up. And so it would probably not be a good idea to overload in the spring as well, since you're likely to be interviewing for jobs, as well. And so I think the good balance is probably 2 and 2 per semester, but I'll leave it up to our panelists if they want to add anything.
Yeah, I think 2 and 2 is pretty fair. So like the capstone and the job hunting, and also the leadership courses will take more time than you expected. So like I think 2 courses is good enough for most people.
And I think there was a specific question for you, Likai. I'm admitted to RES track. You mentioned coming prepared. So do you have any recommendations as an undergrad in EE to not be rusty, and what to prepare for over the summer?
Okay, yeah. I think for that, it's like there are several parts. So first thing, if you want to go into the industry after graduate, first thing you have to get your resume ready probably before you come in. So it's like, I think that's pretty important because there are info sessions going on. And also, I think, Michael, do they know what classes they're gonna get in, like during the summer?
So yeah, good question. In addition to our capstone preferences survey in the summer, we'll also send out a list of courses that are MEng approved from our EECS graduate course lists, and these will be basically filtered per area. Normally, I send out that survey in July, and then I think new admits their first phase enrollment phases are in either late July or early August, I believe. And so that's when we start plugging them into the courses. So the courses are designed so that you get the tools and knowledge that you need to acquire in order to be successful in the capstone research. We also recommend, talking to your capstone faculty advisors for course recommendations among those MEng approved lists that, they can identify that would be important. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
yeah, no worries. I think that's good. And also another thing I can think of is like figure out what courses you want to take for the first and second semester. At least to have something in mind, and then also I think refresh some of the materials for those courses, because some of the topic it might cover it in your undergrad study, but like you took the course and then like a year went by, just like forget everything. So it's like you don't have to do you have super intense preparation for the program. I think that's not what I'm saying, but just like coming like a refreshed, like with all the knowledge in hand, and also like with your resume prepared. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right. So there's a question, is our area specified during application already confined? So yeah, when you applied to the program, you indicated your, by order of preference, what concentration you want to be admitted into. So the department admit emails do have the area that you were admitted to in the content. So I would take a look at that. As far as, let's see, our capstone projects, group work or individual work, normally the projects ask for 3 to 6 students. This, year being so different, and the formats, being different than in person, we've offered different kind of modes of instruction, and advisors have the option to run either like hybrid or in person, or like a mix, or online focused teams. And so you'll have an option, and I think those numbers will also be flexible, but normally in a in-person setting, the groups are 3 to 6 students. Projects can have multiple teams of students as well. That's just up to the advisor and based on their bandwidth and the scope of the project. So on to the next question. Are we allowed to take a undergraduate course? Like I mentioned before, in the same vein of, do I recommend taking additional technical electives? It's really up to you if you think you have the bandwidth for it. We don't kind of assist or condone taking, especially like EECS undergraduate coursework. I think you should have had, the preparation, and the whole point of graduate coursework or graduate program is to take graduate coursework. So I don't know.
So Michael, the question may be whether it counts those.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So if you're asking whether undergraduate courses count towards degree requirements, no, only the graduate level coursework would count towards the MEng degree. So thank you, Mark, for
there
that.
are some undergraduate courses though that are offered together with the graduate version. So it really is the same material, but the graduate version would entail a little bit more work.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. So we have what's called mezzanine courses, and they are essentially undergraduate, but with a graduate flavor on top of that, with extra components. So I mean, it's similar classes, but you do more work, and so yeah, I think pretty much that's a good answer.
Same lectures, if I'm in the same class. It's just that you're expected to study it yourself at a higher level with more assignments.
Let's see. Are the merit-based scholarship results all released yet? No. So in the department emails, we mentioned that those correspondences will be sent out separately by April 5th. And so we're still identifying students who may, that qualify for merit, as well as opportunity fellowships. So let's see, is there an updated list of the technical courses that belong to each area? So we'll be updating the webpage. I think it's updated as of 2020, not 2019, but I'll take a look at the webpage again and update those lists. But we also send out a survey again, like I mentioned, in the summer with updated course offerings that we have reviewed through the each semester. So next question. Since a lot of recruitment occurs in fall before we get a chance to take many technical courses, how prepared did you feel for job interviews? So that looks like a question for the panelists. Anyone want to answer that?
I guess I can start. So for me, honestly, I wasn't so prepared coming to the X program. And actually a lot for recruitment happens just right after the semester began. They had this huge career fair at Berkeley, and that I think it's like end of August, beginning of September. Uh, at that time, I wasn't prepared at all, and I did get some interviews, but they didn't went too well, and I made much more preparation during the winter break, during the end of the first semester, and then I went for the spring recruitment. But yeah, if you can prepare, there were definitely a lot openings during the fall recruitment. You gotta come here prepared. So
I think it's same for me, and I also got my offer in spring. So I think just like the first the career fair is just like kind of for me just dabble the water, take some interview, and then know what's going on. And the second, like the spring one is the more important one. I think most people, maybe like 30%, 20 to 30% people got their offer during the fall, and but most people, I think the most busy time for job hunting is maybe February, March of the second semester. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like most of the companies, they will do their college recruiting during the whole year. So like a lot of companies, they may both have the fall recruiting and also the spring recruiting. So like even if from my own experience, like when it comes to the spring semester, like the second semester, I even got like more interviews from companies compared to the first semester. So just no worries about like if you didn't prepare well after you came to Berkeley for the fourth semester, you can even have a lot of opportunities even in the second semester. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Going down the list here. I have a deferral policy question. The deadline for deferral requests to be submitted to your department is May 15th. What if we cannot be sure if we can get the visa or enter the US before May 15th? So at this time, we know about as much as you with regards to the policy on whether or not they'll be allowing or processing visas. I think my advice would be to continue checking our Berkeley International Office webpage for the latest news. Regarding deferral requests, we'll be reviewing those case by case based on the situation. And so, definitely understanding of the current and ongoing pandemic and how that, can throw a cog in your plans. But I would recommend going to the Berkeley International Office website for the latest news on, any sort of presidential proclamations that may change the situation. I can't say, whether or not that would, whether anything's on the grapevine for May 15th, but we're hopeful. As the campus um, has already mentioned, we do plan on having hybrid instruction and in-person instruction for classes, and so um, you know, barring anything happening from now until the fall, I think a return to normalcy should be expected. Is it true that most new students come to Berkeley with some internship experience? I have no internship experience now, and it's a one-year program, so I'm worried about my chance of getting a good job after graduation. No, I don't think it's a prerequisite. And I think, as the panelists have mentioned before, and my recommendation personally would be, focus on doing well in the MEng program, and all the other stuff will kind of fall in place. There will be ongoing recruitment events that you can participate in, and that you feel better prepared for after, completing a term here at Berkeley. And so, I think that would be my advice. And so yeah, let's see. Are there published resources on career outcomes for Berkeley EECS? I believe, Claire, you can probably answer that best. Fung keeps track of everything. We do to a certain degree as well, but I think the most accurate information you'll probably get from the Fung Institute, and Julie McShane, I believe, is the career development person over there. And so, Claire, did you want to elaborate a little bit?
So, Michael, that is correct. So Julie McShane is our Director of Career Development, and also Dione Rivera is our Assistant Director of Career Development. So you are more than welcome to reach out to Julie or Dione, which you can find their information on our new Admit webpage if you would like to learn more information about statistics. Oh, and also our Career Development Office did provide a webinar session on March 22nd. So I highly, highly advise that you check out that webinar on March 22nd, which again is featured on our new Admit webpage under the on-demand webinar section.
Great, thank you, Claire. So some financial aid questions. It looks like, does UC Berkeley co-sign loans? That would help a lot in the process. So it depends on, your status as a student. I think as a U.S. citizen, you definitely would qualify for federal student loans. This is a self-supporting program, so outside of the merit and opportunity fellowships that we assign, you're expected to be self-supporting through the program, but you can apply through our financial aid office for federal student loans, as well as you can also look through a list of approved private lenders through their website. And so I would probably recommend going through that to find a good lender and to, secure a lower interest rate than saying going to your bank or maybe credit union. That might be a good idea too, but do your research on that. I don't think, I mean, as far as co-signing goes, we wouldn't be like collateral, but we would certify, a loan based on your costs of attendance. And so that's, your budget for, both tuition fees as well as, cost of living and other expenses. So if that's the question, or if that's the answer that you're looking for, then hopefully that helped. Do we have to go to campus in person or have the option to attend virtually, or it depends on each class? So at this time, I believe the campus is announcing that we have hybrid mode of instruction. And so there are courses that will be taught in person, but I think the vast majority of them, and Murat, maybe you can correct me on this, they'll also have probably an online component, right? So that's my guess. Whether or not you can attend completely, virtually or remote like this past year, I don't think that's the plan. I think we're hoping for a return to normalcy, and so students returning to campus or being present, and depending on the faculty advisor and the capstone projects that are offered, that might be their expectation as well. Do you want to add anything, Murat?
Yeah, I mean, online, it's still in flux. So we don't know yet. I mean, most likely the current intention is to return to in-person and hybrid. When it's in-person alone, I'm not sure if we can count on also being broadcast. Perhaps it will be, but it's hard to say anything at this moment. We're hoping in person and hybrid.
Yeah, most of the mezzanine courses, like I mentioned, they are webcasts at the very least. So you can always review the content at your leisure. And if you missed lecture for whatever reason, then the content's available online, and all the classes, and I'd say most of the classes also have like I think a course portal that's B courses. I think that is usually going to have a lot of course content that you can review if you miss something live. So there's some questions about the how to SIR, how to submit your intent to register. So we've submitted or we've sent out departmental admit letters, and on those letters you'll see that our graduate division's office has to review our recommendations, and so they're going through that process, and after approval, then they'll be sending out the official notices to our admits. So you should be getting a separate email with that link to SIR in that. Typical size of the EECS cohort any given year, it's been growing. I've been with this department for over 5 years now. And when I first inherited the program, it was roughly 27 students. Now, and I think your guys' class 2019 was the largest to date, which I believe was 120. So we've seen steady increase in demand, as well as the increase in the size of our cohorts, and I think that's just expected. Is it hard to get into the extension program? So I mentioned before, the main limiting factors are advisor endorsement or commitment to advise for the third semester, as well as your academic performance. So if you've got those two bases covered, you should be fine. At this time, I think we're coming up to the hour, so I wanted to just leave the floor open for any additional questions for our panelists, because I don't want to keep them longer than we have to. And again, thank you guys for sharing your experiences, providing your insight, and giving some wisdom to our new admits. I think we got a really good showing with 3 of the 5 areas today represented, and so I hope that you guys were able to garnish some good information from our panelists. And any last questions for them in the chat? Okay, well, I mean, thank you, the 3 of you. Again, I think we can wrap up the other stuff just between me and Claire, and so the rest of you guys are free to go. And I really appreciate your time, and again, sharing your experiences of MEng for us all to hear today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right.
You have a nice weekend.
You too. Take care. So let's see. Oh, there was one question that just popped up. Anything you regret? I don't know if they have any regrets. I think they're doing pretty well, which is probably why they agreed to come out and talk to us today. So I think we're okay on that end. All right. Since only 3 of 4 technical courses need to be in your concentration, can the 4th be chosen from any EECS graduate course? So we pre-vet our course offerings from the EECS department to ensure that they're appropriate for MEng students. A lot of, or I'm not say a lot, but some of the courses are definitely more advanced, say for like our 2nd and 3rd PhD students, and are offered as such. And so from the list of MEng approved courses per area, if you've already taken 3, then you are allowed to take a 4th outside of your concentration, whether or not, for enrichment purposes, or like I had mentioned before, there are a large number of our capstone projects that have interdisciplinary focus, and so it might be a good idea for you to take a class outside of your area to acquire some of that knowledge. Where can we find job statistics of the previous graduates? I think, as Claire mentioned, Julie McShane would be the point of contact for that, and she is and also Dione. And so the Fung administration team can assist you with that information.
Is there a website, Claire, where those are available?
Yeah, there is. But however, Professor, we cannot type in links in here. We don't have a chat in this webinar. However, please do visit the MEng admit webpage. A lot of super helpful information is there. So I encourage you all to please visit that webpage, and I'm sure you all have received information about it.
So it's fine if it's a repeat. We are still assigning merit and opportunity fellowships at this time, and should have those sent out by next week. Okay, so it's a little past 2 now. Oh, there's one last question I think that's relevant and that I should answer. Is there a possibility to transfer the MS program? So no, this is a standalone, and it's a terminal MS degree. We don't allow any transfers to the regular MS. If that were kind of your aim, then the MEng program may not offer the, I guess, wide research environment that you're looking for, but at the same time, I think it does have, like you saw from the panelists, a lot to give. But yeah, if you're interested in our MS program, you would have to reapply.
I have to leave for another meeting, but
Okay.
So congratulations everyone for being admitted. I've seen some the applications, and they are if you made it in, really congratulations. We have some very competitive process to admit students.
Thank you, Murat.
Okay,
all right,
bye.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
I just want to quickly add, Michael, that a very nice person attendee added the employment data in this link here. So for those,
okay.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you for doing that. So I'll just leave that up there.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, GradDiv is still reviewing our recommendations, and so they'll be the ones to send the official notices with the SIR links, and usually they take about anywhere from a couple to a few days to review. Obviously, we have quite a large cohort, and so I will check in with them. If you don't get something by, say, like midweek next week, then send me an email, as mentioned in the department admit email that you received. Okay. So I think at this time, I'd like to just wrap things up. Thanks, Claire, for helping coordinate this for us. And again, this recording will be posted right on the new admits page.
Yes, on the on-demand webinar. And we'll also make sure to send an announcement on the Whova app. I hope that you are all on there to stay engaged with your future cohort, and also messaging from the MEng program's office. But yes, it will be posted as soon as it becomes available.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. I think I'm going to sign out then. Is that cool?